Tonight on Politicat, an interview with current ASG President Christian Wade, and an in-studio discussion with Daily reporter Emma Rosenbaum ahead of tonight's debate between candidates of two presidential campaigns.
Plus, a look at the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve and how the Biden administration is trying to use it to lower gas prices.
And we take a look at how the war in Ukraine is impacting members of the Northwestern community.
Those stories and more tonight on Politicat.
It's your politics right now. Good evening and welcome to Politicat. I'm Chloe Cope.
And I'm Max Rothfeder. We have a lot to cover tonight, so let's jump right in. On Thursday, the Senate voted to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the United States Supreme Court. The final vote count was 53 to 47, all Senate Democrats and 3 Republicans voting in Jackson's favor. When sworn in, Jackson will be the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court, fulfilling one of President Biden's campaign promises.
In a late-night address, President of Ukraine Zelensky pressed for a complete embargo of Russian oil and gas, saying these resources as fueling Russia's sense of impunity. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, President Zelensky said the whole European project is a target for Russia. This call to action comes amid continued Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians.
Last Sunday, Prime Minister Imran Khan of Pakistan was ousted in a vote of no confidence. An alliance of politicians supported his removal amid allegations that Khan mishandled Pakistan's foreign policy and economy. In an address to the nation, Khan alleged that the vote of no confidence was the result of a foreign conspiracy connected to the United States, a claim that the United States State Department has denied.
In anticipation of the Associated Student Government's upcoming presidential elections, NNN will be hosting a candidate debate later tonight at 7:45 p.m. We are joined here on Politicat by Emma Rosenbaum. She covered ASG extensively for the Daily Northwestern. Welcome, Emma. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Before we dive in, I sat down yesterday with current ASG President Christian Wade to recap his year and to talk about his hopes for the future. Let's take a look. Hi, Christian. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's jump right in. So how has your year been? You're the exiting ASG president. What have been some of your favorite projects?
Yeah, so I think overall it's been a really good year. I think coming into it, wasn't really sure what to expect. We were kind of coming into this virtual hybrid in-person kind of setting. I know we had a lot of things that we wanted to do on our platform they wanted to tackle. We weren't really sure how we were going to do it, just what the time was going to look like, all that type of stuff. So was definitely very, very anxious coming into the start of the year. But I think overall it's been honestly one of the, if not the most rewarding experience of my college career, even just my kind of life so far. I've gotten the chance to work alongside some really, really cool people on some really cool projects. I think it's just been great to kind of make a change in your campus. I feel like here, and I guess we're not a super huge school, but 8,000 students kind of, I don't know, I feel like when I came in as a freshman, I knew that this was something I wanted to do, to kind of come in and make an impact, and try to make this place a bit better for people kind of on their day-to-day lives. And I think that hopefully, I'm going to be biased, but I think that we've been able to do that to an extent. So I think some of the favorite projects I worked on this year are, I think one thing we're about to launch the next couple of weeks is a meal swipe redistribution program. So students that are on the meal plan now, they can kind of donate their unused meal swipes to upperclassmen or people that are living off campus, so to kind of combat food insecurity in some ways. So I think that's one of our favorite kind of executive office projects. But I think the things that I'm most proud of, honestly, are the things that come from our different committees and from Senate, honestly, because it just makes me beam up when in our meetings they have all these different announcements and stuff. So it's for example, our sustainability committee is working on, they've been really working on a zero waste project for Ryan Field, or our academics committee, they sent out a letter at the beginning of the winter quarter to kind of stress all the different changes and stuff that professors should make in a virtual setting. So I think we've been able to do a lot. I could go on for forever, but yeah, it's been a really great experience so far.
Yeah, very cool. So in terms of the next president and vice president, what are some qualities that you're looking for, and what do you hope that they might continue into the next year, something maybe you didn't get to or something you definitely want them to keep going with?
I think so. Just in terms of qualities, I'm really just looking for people that are driven, honestly, and for people that just care, kind of first and foremost. So, looking for driven people, I think this is a lot of work. I feel like it may seem like, it's like, oh, I can just kind of delegate some things or whatever. But honestly, like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of things that you're just gonna have to buckle down and do. So you really have to have that drive to start a project from scratch to completion. So I think that's definitely one thing. And just I think at the end of the day, like you should do this job not because you're interested in the title or because it's a good role or whatever. You should do it because you care about making a difference in people's lives. I think ASG has the potential to create a lot of good change. We have a good standing with administrators and stuff. So I think it's a really great vehicle to do that. So I just want people that care about making change first and foremost. They're not gonna get elected and be like, all right, I'm the president. That's cool. My work is done. So I think those are kind of the two main qualities I'm looking for.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for the candidates? Are there any difficulties that you face during your presidency that they might face?
I think biggest thing is just like I feel like this sounds like cliche, but just like don't give up. Honestly, I mean like there's been a lot of times with like different initiatives that we worked on where it's like you hit a wall. I'm just kind of like internally rethinking, or if an administrator might tell you no or something, and it's really easy to kind of get demoralized and be like, all right, well I don't know what to do anymore. But I think you just kind of have put your head down, keep working, and just like think of different ways to achieve, I guess, like your ultimate goal, honestly. So yeah, that's my biggest thing. It can get really hard and really frustrating at times, especially when there's like issues on campus that create a lot of debate and kind of fervor. It was like I remember back in the spring quarter we had a couple instances of that happening, and like it was very, very stressful. And there were definitely times where I was like, I can't do this anymore. But you just kind of have to keep pushing. Believe that you're making a good impact in people's lives at the end of the day, and hopefully that should kind of motivate you to keep going. So
yeah. Awesome. I think that's all the time we have for today, but thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great work.
2, 1.
Great. So Emma, let's talk about this debate. Wade spoke about some difficulties interacting with admin and how that kind of stalled some of their projects. In your reporting, how have you seen ASG interacting with the Northwestern administration?
So one thing is I do think they are very good at communicating with administration, and one thing I found in my reporting is that administration actually does care about what the executive board has to say and wants to talk about them, which is something I was always skeptical of, just seeing a lot of things pass in Senate and then seems to die out. But really what I found is that a lot of the things that ASG asked for are not actually possible for administration to do, and just are a lot more complicated than they initially seem. And so administration a lot of times I think tells them that we'd love to do that, but we can't because of X, Y, Z. And so I think that's where a lot of their roadblocks do come from, because I know that they do spend a lot of time talking with administration.
Sure. So a lot of students, a lot of times ASG says they understand that students don't find them to be particularly effective or useful. And what you just said is that sometimes they present things to admin that aren't possible. Do you think that contributes to that view that students have of ASG? And how do you think ASG can remedy that in the years to come?
So I think that does contribute to some extent. For the first part is that ASG doesn't do a great job communicating what they're doing. I wasn't aware of how much they talk to admin until actually winter quarter, and executive office, so that's Christian Wade and Ada Agbana, talk with different administrators every week, and I wasn't aware of that. So I think that ASG could definitely do a better job of making students aware of what they're talking about with administrators and how often they're talking with them. But I think it's also not to say, administration would love to do that, they just can't. Like, I do think, ASG Executive Office does do a good job fighting for it, and a lot of things, like, there are just roadblocks, and the administration just won't yield on things.
So in your reporting, you've talked to a lot of students and heard from them. What do you think to them the biggest issues that ASG should be tackling are?
I think number one would be CAPS. That's something that I always hear about, the amount of students I know that have tried to schedule appointments with CAPS and have just found they can't for months. There's many of them, and so I think that's something students really want to see. And I know ASG did work on that. I think they worked on creating same-day appointments and increasing the diversity of CAPS staff. So that would be, I think, the number one thing, and I hope that they talk about in the debate later tonight. And the other thing is students have problems with administration, want them to be doing different things, are confused about different things they do, and I think ASG should be doing a better job telling students how they're advocating for them, because I think students want to be in the loop about things.
Yeah. And in terms of what you want to see from ASG, what are your top issues?
For top
I know we just
issues,
touched on CAPS, but
yes. No, that is a big one. I mean, I did like their legislation on putting ice cream in the dining halls. But for others, I really like, right now, the Executive Officer of Accountability, Margot Bartel, is working to increase avenues of communication with the Board of Trustees. And talking with her a few weeks ago, it was just crazy to hear about how students have no access to that at all, and this is the group that yields the most power. And so I really like that project they're working on right now. And then I'm also really interested, Donovan Cusick, who's running for vice president with Jason Hegelmeyer, is working on a program to donate meal swipes to lower income students. People can exchange their meal swipes.
Yeah.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for joining us. And just a quick programming note, the ASG debate will be live on NNN's Facebook page at 7:45 p.m. with both tickets in the studio. Jason Hagelmeyer and Donovan Cusick are running against David Groh and Camilla Vicens.
And coming up after the break, a closer look at the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve and the impact of now Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation to the Supreme Court.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
This past week, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed to the Supreme Court after the full Senate vote with a 53 in favor and 47 against. NNN's Julia Richardson covered the nomination process last quarter in Washington, D.C. Now, Julia, you talked to a lot of people about Justice Jackson. What does her confirmation mean to the people that you talk to, and what does it mean for the United States?
Yes, so I was actually in DC when President Biden announced now Justice Jackson as his Supreme Court nominee. And, everyone I talked to said that they were overjoyed, that this was a long time coming. They've been waiting for this. It's about time. Especially for those in the Black community, they see themselves in Judge Jackson and they see themselves represented on the Supreme Court for the first time in history. And that impact is something that cannot be overstated. I talked to a mom who has 2 little girls, and she told me, my girls can be whatever they want to be because they see Judge Jackson as an example. And, I also talked to a few college students who want to take similar paths to Judge Jackson, going to law school, eventually becoming judges. And they told me that this was a moment of inspiration for them because they see somebody who looks like them doing what they want to do. And so, a phrase that I heard a lot while I was there, and I'm still hearing a lot, is that the court looks a lot more like the country now, and that is something that cannot be overstated.
Thank you very much, Julia, again, for all of your great reporting in DC last quarter, and we're happy to have you back in Evanston. Chloe?
The Biden administration recently announced that it will end Title 42 on May 23rd, a controversial pandemic-era policy put in place by former President Trump. Braden Spate is here to explain the impact of Title 42 over the past 2 years and where it's heading.
Thanks. So the Trump administration put Title 42 in place in March 2020. The policy meant that Border Patrol agents could turn away migrants at the border and deny them the opportunity to seek asylum. The policy directly goes against asylum law, as an asylum claim begins a process during which a migrant is allowed to stay in the country long enough to argue their case. The U.S. has expelled more than 1.7 million migrants since Title 42's adoption, 1.2 million of which have occurred under the Biden administration. The majority of migrants are expelled by land to Mexico, but some are put on deportation flights. When President Biden took office, the new administration changed Title 42 so that unaccompanied children could no longer be deported alone. Since Title 42's adoption, it has drawn criticism from immigration advocates who argue that it is being used for quick deportations rather than to aid with a public health crisis. The initial order said that deportations were necessary to protect U.S. agents from COVID-19 and stop the spread of the virus in border facilities. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have reevaluated and released a statement, saying, quote, "After considering current public health conditions and an increased availability of tools to fight COVID-19, such as highly effective vaccines and therapeutics, the CDC director has determined that an order suspending the right to introduce migrants into the United States is no longer necessary." The Department of Homeland Security is now bracing for a dramatic increase in migrants after May 23rd, and this story will continue to develop as May 23rd draws closer.
Thanks, Braden. In response to spiking gas prices, President Biden last week ordered the release of 180 million barrels of oil from U.S. strategic petroleum reserves. For today's Money Minute, here's Max Rothfeder to break it down.
So if you've bought gas in the last month, you've probably felt the sting of higher prices. The average price of a gallon of gas in the United States reached $4.32. That's up from $2.90 just a year earlier. The spike is largely the result of government sanctions and corporate boycotts against the Russian government. Nations and business owners have cut ties with the oil-rich state, tying up exports to Europe and Asia. And in a globalized world, that's made gas more expensive for everybody. Here in the United States, the Biden administration is fighting back by releasing oil from the strategic reserves, up to 1 million barrels each day, every day for the next 6 months. But where have we been keeping all of this oil? Well, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve has 4 underground sites near the Gulf Coast: West Hackberry and Bayou Choctaw in Louisiana, and Big Hill and Bryan Mound in Texas. Together, they can hold up to 714 million barrels of oil. The largest, Bryan Mound, is the largest oil storage facility in the world. It's an enormous hollow salt dome with more than 215 barrels currently held in its 19 caverns. The United States government has used these reserves to respond to extreme weather events like Hurricane Harvey in Houston in 2017 or Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans in 2005, to mitigate disruptions from damaged refineries and pipelines, or to help with shortages like the one we're currently experiencing. But will the release of reserve oil end the price crunch? Well, probably not. The release will only replace about a third of Russia's drop in exports each day and will backstop just 5% of America's oil intake. But the directive may calm down traders in the choppy market for oil derivatives, whose frenetic trading over the last month has caused headaches for real-world oil and gas buyers. By that metric, the plan seems to have had an impact. In the week since Biden's decision was first reported, volatility in the oil market has dropped 13%, and under these circumstances, any increase in stability can be defined as progress.
Thank you, Max. In just 60 seconds, we take a look at recent acts of terror in Israel and discuss how the war in Ukraine is affecting members of the Northwestern community.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Multiple acts of terrorism struck Israel over the past 2 weeks, causing at least 14 deaths. The latest attack occurred at a busy street filled with restaurants and bars in Tel Aviv. A Palestinian man opened fire, killing 3 and injuring many more. In response, Israeli Prime Minister said in part, "Every murderer knows we will find them. Everyone who helps a terrorist should know that they will pay a heavy price." Palestinians' militant group, Hamas, praised the shooting, calling it, quote, a heroic operation, but did not claim credit for the attack. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the killing. I spoke to Hillel's executive director, Michael Simon.
When something like these attacks are happening in Israel, we want to make sure members of our community know that we know, we see, we hear that you may be affected by it, you may be concerned about it, and we want to, express that on behalf of the community and also as an invitation to students and other members of the community, Jewish or otherwise, who want to engage, maybe to come and have somebody to talk to, or even just have a sense that somebody out there, cares and is concerned about, what's happening over there.
For students who would like someone to talk to, they can contact Simon or other staff members at Hillel. All of their contact information is available on Hillel's website.
A citywide COVID-19 lockdown has disrupted food supplies in Shanghai, China. Residents responded with criticism as the country continues to adhere to its zero COVID policy. Shanghai recorded Saturday some 25,000 cases, and its 265 million residents have been under lockdown for over a week. In some areas, the policy means residents are not allowed to leave their housing compounds. Food supply has become an issue as many food markets suspended operations, and food delivery workers have been confined to their homes. Shanghai Vice Mayor Chen Tong said last Thursday some food shops will be allowed to reopen and more food delivery workers will be permitted to return to their job. For much of the past 2 years, China has stamped out COVID outbreaks using stringent policies such as border controls, mass testing, quarantines, and lockdowns.
Northwestern for Ukraine held a candlelight vigil last Thursday in honor of Ukrainians lost to the Russian invasion. Politicat's Hannah Zhang talked to community members affected by the invasion.
Names of perished Ukrainians read one after another, followed by moments of silence. At the Alice Millar Chapel, Evanston and Northwestern community members pray for lives lost.
Son, my darling, it's March 13th today, and we are still alive.
Irina Patrick, a vigil organizer, read text messages sent from a Ukrainian mother in Mariupol to her son.
It's so revealing of how much she loves her son.
The day before the vigil, Patrick reunited with her own mother who went to Ukraine to take care of Patrick's grandmother.
I wrote to my daughter, no matter what happened to me, be strong and follow your dreams. I love you very much.
Kutkovska was relatively safe staying close to Lviv in western Ukraine, yet seeing the atrocity with her own eyes as refugees flooded into western Ukraine.
How Russian people who live together in the Soviet Union right now can kill us. What for? What for?
After 6 weeks, Kutkovska had to come back to the U.S. for work, but her mother refused to leave Ukraine.
She said, "This is my land."
Kutkovska took a video of her mother who kept saying, "For Ukraine, for people, for liberty."
This candlelight service was beautiful, so grateful that I got to be here, take part in it.
The vigil organizer Northwestern for Ukraine has raised more than $15,800, but they're not stopping.
Although things are looking slightly better, there is still a war on Ukrainian soil, and the issue has not gone away.
Prayer and love, remembering the bravery that lit up the night. Hannah Jiang, Northwestern News Network.
Thank you, Hannah. That's all the time we have for tonight. For Politicat, I'm Chloe Cope.
And I'm Max Rothfeder. Stay safe and stay informed, and make sure to watch the ASG debate tonight at 7:45 p.m. Good night.